Hey, it's 1 p.m. It's Friday. It's lunchtime. That means it's time for a Periscope. Welcome. So my name's Belinda Weaver. This is my lovely smiling face here, reflected in the light of my computer. Thank you, Robbie. Thank you for joining me. Right, I'm going to flip the camera around because this view is kind of awkward. The flip. I'm getting better at that. All right, cool. So, hi everyone. Welcome to my weekly Periscope live on Fridays. Today I wanted to talk about how to write copywriting proposals that explode your conversion rate. Now, this is based on the blog that I just published this week. So you can read the full blog post. Bang the table there. You can read the full blog post on my blog, which is called The Copy Detective, which is on my website, copywritematters.com/blog. And as I said, it's how to write copywriting proposals that explode your conversion rate. And that's because my last Periscope was talking about how to put together the numbers of a copywriting quote. So, is it hourly rate? Do you do it by project? And how do you put the figures together? But in actual fact, the price that you tell a potential customer is only part of the reason that they say yes, okay? So what I used to do is I used to send potential customers a one-page document. There was basically a logo and some contact details up the top. There was a table. I had, like 5 website pages, 400 words each, and then a price. And then if there was a couple of things, I had a price at the bottom, and I put the price in big red text. And I would send it off to them because, that was the bare minimum of information I thought they might need. And you know what? Hardly anyone ever said yes. Then I transformed my one-page quote into a much larger proposal for investment. And I reckon I bumped my conversion rate from, say 20% up to about 85 or 90%. I actually put up my prices. I was completely flooded with work, and all because I made this change to how I presented my quote. Because the price, the number, isn't as important as the value you offer. People have to feel like they're getting value for the money. So if you just put a price on a page and highlight it in red, that's what people are going to focus on. What you want them to focus on is the value that you bring to the table. So, how you present that value will absolutely impact how well you convert. Makes sense, doesn't it? Right? Right, so the first page of my copywriting proposal, as I would call it now, I did things like greetings, objectives, and requirements. And this is basically about adding a personal touch to your proposal because they're reading it usually in a document and you're not there. Thanks, Robbie, for posting that. She says, if you've got questions throughout this, just post them. These are interactive sessions, yeah? So yeah, that first page is all about adding a personal touch. And it's about letting know your potential client that you were listening to them and that you understand what they are trying to achieve. So this is where you kind of reiterate what the objectives of the project is, what they are trying to achieve. And, you make sure your document's branded and you have a really nice, polite cover letter that says, "Hi, Belinda. Thanks for your time recently, and thanks for the opportunity to present you with this proposal." That kind of thing. You want to be polite, you want to be friendly. This is a chance to show off your brand personality, but most of all, you want to let them know that you understand what it is they're trying to achieve. And then you can get into the nitty-gritty. But before you want to explain what your service entails, you want to introduce yourself again. Now, you might think, well, why do you need to introduce yourself? They've contacted you to get a proposal and you're sending it through. But more often than not, your potential customer's probably shopping around a bit. Maybe. Thanks for the hearts there. So they might be getting a couple of proposals and you want to remind them why they got in touch with you in the first place. This could be an excerpt of your about page. You basically want to make yourself sound credible, experienced, knowledgeable, and you want to couch all that in a way that tells them how they're going to benefit from that. So this is exactly what your About page needs to do as well. And it's an opportunity to show off your personality, because just imagine your potential customers looking at a few proposals. You want them to get a feel for how you work and what you're going to be like to work with. So that's the second section. So we've got greetings, objectives and all that kind of stuff. And then we've got introductions. The third page or the third section is where you can dig into the specifics of your service. So, you've got this introduction. It's a nice soft introduction, but then you can get into the nitty gritty. That's Robbie, a great way to stand out from the competition. That's exactly right. And that's what that's the point of this document. You want to stand out from the competition when you're not there to inject your own personality into the conversation with your potential customer. So when you talk about the specifics of your service, you want to talk about the benefits of the service as a whole. For me, I talked about why website copywriting needs to be a certain way, why e-newsletters work as well as they do, why a brochure needs good copy as well as good design. And then I would dig into what all the inclusions of the services were. This is really important. This is the scope of the project. You have to be really, really clear about how many revisions, whether meeting time is included, whether proofreading is included, all the things that your service includes. Even if you think it's a bit tedious or you're like, well, everyone includes that, make sure you spell it out, because all these kind of things will enhance the perceived value of what it is that you're offering. And then you put the price. So by the time they actually see a number, and don't highlight it in red like I did. Oh, why did I do that? So by the time they actually see the price, you've introduced yourself, you've been super polite, you've told them that you were listening and you get what they're trying to achieve, and you've given them lots of reasons to choose your service by explaining the benefits and the value of what it is you're doing. So now you've got to the price, you want to quickly follow that up with some proof of other people thinking that you're freaking awesome, right? So that could be testimonials, it could be case studies, it could even be some samples of your work. I usually just had like a page of testimonials of different types of projects just to show a bit of variety, but they all love this proposals as a sale page. Exactly. Thank you, Finally Writing. That's exactly what this is. It's kind of like a really long landing page for one particular customer. That's a perfect analogy. So, you want to back it up with proof. I just had testimonials, but this is just social proof of your success. And then you want to wrap it up with a call to action, of course. Now, I've mentioned before that I think the bookends of any marketing are the headline and the call to action. You've got to have a headline and you've got to have a call to action. So for each of these sections, of course, you're going to have a headline, but you need to wrap up the whole proposal document with a call to action, and you need to make it really clear what the person has to do next. I mean, do they fill out a form that lets you know that they're willing to go ahead? Do they pay a deposit? Do they send you an email? Do they need to sign something? Make it really clear that if they're ready to take the next step with you, exactly what they have to do. So call to action is really, really critical. And then the final step in my copywriting proposal was the terms and conditions. And that would usually take about 2 pages. Now, these are basically the rules of play, how the project will work. You reiterate the inclusions like how many revisions there are, proofreading, all those kind of things. But you also specify the exclusions. I never used to include in my price things like working with designers and developers and, all those kind of external resources. So I would specify in my terms and conditions that is not included. You also have to specify things like what happens if they want more revisions or they cancel the project. And when you include all these terms and conditions, hopefully you never have to call on them. But if something goes wrong, you have this document and both of you have a really clear idea of maybe how to resolve a challenge or an issue and, how to get through some tricky, difficult stages. So that's really, really important. So let me just quickly recap on the sections in your proposal. And each section might be one page or it might be more than one page. So open the document with a greetings page. It's a nice little introductory letter. You reiterate the objectives and the requirements of the project. You're super nice, you're super friendly, it's all branded. Then you go into an about me section. You reintroduce yourself, always couching your credibility and your experience in a way that tells the customers what's in it for them, why they should care, why they should choose you. Then you want the specifics of the service, all of the services that you're offering. Remember, this is all about creating a high perceived value so that when they get to that price, they actually think it's a bit of a bargain. That's the point of that. And then you want to quickly follow up with some proof that you're awesome, proof that other people think you're awesome, proof of your success. You want a call to action. So by the time they've gone, hell yeah, this chick sounds awesome. What do I do? It's really, really clear. And then finally, you have your terms and conditions. So everything, it has personality. Everything is branded. There are lots and lots of details because you have to assume that your potential customer isn't necessarily going to come back and ask you questions. They're going to assume that they've got more than one proposal, assume they've got choice, and they might not choose you. So you really have to have this sales page customized just for them. Then you need to have the proof, terms, conditions, and the next step. So that's kind of a bit of a checklist. I've actually got a longer checklist in the blog post. So if you head to copywritematters.com/blog, it's the most recent blog post there. And I've got a longer checklist that you can use for your own proposals just to make sure you've checked everything off. And now if you're thinking, that's long, that's way too long, it overwhelms people. It doesn't. It absolutely doesn't. This is your sales pitch when you're not there. And it's really, really important. And it definitely will transform your conversion rates. One thing I said in the blog post was this isn't a quote. This is a proposal for investment. You're treating it almost like, thanks to Robbie's just giving me a compliment there, which is very nice of you, Robbie, making me blush. You got to treat this like a tender document. You want to win the work. And so you've got to give people lots of really great reasons to say yes to you. Now, I guess that's my proposal document. If you're thinking it's going to be time consuming to write, it can be time consuming. So I've got a couple of tips there. Use templates. Create templates of each section of the document. So it's really easy to I used to have the framework with a rough templated introduction letter. The about me section, testimonials stayed the same. The terms and conditions stayed the same. The call to action stayed the same. Then I had separate documents so I could just go, right, they want a website, they want an email campaign, they need some social media pages, and then I'd put all the document together and then I would customize it. That customizing is really, really important because you want it to have a personal touch, just like that opening letter. And then it can take, you take an hour-long process down to maybe 15 minutes. And if you're actually asking lots of questions up front, you can actually kick all the tie kickers to the curb so you don't waste a lot of time creating these kind of long proposals for people who would never, ever say yes anyway. So you want to invest time in people who are going to say yes, and you want to create this kind of sales pitch for them to help them say yes. And as I said, this kind of document transformation took my conversion rate from about 20% to about 80 or 90%. Pretty much everyone said yes. And if they didn't say yes immediately, more often than not, they came back to say yes later on. So it's a really, really valuable way to spend your time and invest in your sales pipeline. So I guess that's what I wanted to cover. And I'd love to know if anyone has any questions. Any of you have proposal documents like this already? Would you consider making these changes to your current quoting process? I'd love to get your thoughts. And while some hold music plays, so unprofessional. Now, all right. Well, I haven't got a lot of questions popping up, which is totally cool. Inspired to make a template. That's fantastic. Templates are should be in a lot of parts of your business. You know what? If you find yourself writing emails, the same email over and over again, create a template. If you find yourself just writing the same sentences for whatever reason, create a template. I used to have lots of templates. Templates for copy decks, templates for proposals, templates for emails at each step of my sales process. And project process, I would have, the welcome email, the thanks for getting in contact email, the here is the proposal email, the hey, I just wanted to see if you had any questions email, the now the project's getting started email, this is what's going to happen. All my emails with my customers, I would customize them so they weren't just robotic copy and paste, but oh my God, it saves so much time. So yes, create as many templates as you need to make those repeatable tasks so quick to do. So that's me on Periscope. I guess it's nice to have a global audience here. We've got some NorCals here, got some Aussies here, an Aussie and NorCal. So, if you're liking this, I've seen lots of hearts going up and I really appreciate that. It's really great kind of visual feedback because, obviously I'm looking at myself, which is a bit weird. But if you've liked this Periscope, share it on Twitter. If you can, hit the little dude, share it on Twitter, and it'll actually go straight out to your Twitter feed. And maybe if you're watching the replay or you want to catch it again, I record these and I put them on the YouTube. So I actually have a channel, Copyright Matters TV, on YouTube. And you can find all the Periscopes there, as well as some other copywriting tutorials that I kind of try and publish quite regularly. Thank you very much for sharing that on Twitter. You guys rock. So I hope you have a fantastic weekend. Yay for the weekend, hey? And I hope you have a brilliant next week. I'd love to know, maybe you want to shoot me an email or leave a comment on the blog. If you make these changes to your proposals, turn those quotes into proposals for investments. If you make the changes, let me know how you find it, what kind of results you get, if you notice any changes in the kind of results you get at all. So that's it. That's me. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for joining me on Periscope. I'm here every Friday, 1 p.m. It's a great way to spend a lunch break, right? All right. So I will see you next time, people. Bye-bye.